Muncha, Muncha, Muncha by Candace Fleming. Oh, looks like a farmer, or he's going to put in a garden. And look at what the rabbits are doing. I wonder what we'll find out. Muncha, Muncha, Muncha. For years, Mr. McGreely dreamed of planting a garden. He dreamed of getting his hands dirty, of growing yummy vegetables and gobbling them all up. Find Mr. McGreely up in the window. But he never tried until this spring, said Mr. McGreely. This spring, by golly, I'm going to plant a garden. So he hoed and he sowed and he watched his garden grow. Lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes. Yum, yum, yummy, said Mr. McGreely. I'll soon fill my tummy with crisp, fresh veggies. But look who's watching him. Uh-oh. But one night when the sun went down and the moon came up, 3 hungry bunnies appeared. Tippy, 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 pat. Muncha, muncha, muncha. Look at 'em eat. The next morning when Mr. McGreely saw his gnawed sprouts, he was angry. So he built a small wire fence all around his garden. There, he declared, no bunny can get into my garden now. It looks pretty good. Nice fence. Do you see the 3 bunnies? And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy, 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 pat. Spring hurdle, dash, dash, dash. Muncha, muncha, muncha. Look at them. They're climbing over the fence. And they're eating the garden again. The next morning when Mr. McGreely found his nibbled leaves and gnawed sprouts, he was really angry. So he built a tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. He huffed. Those flop ears will never get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy, 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 pat, dig, scrabble, scratch, 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 muncha, muncha, muncha. Spring hurdle, dash, 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 dash. Oh, they dug a hole under the fence. Those rascals. The next morning when Mr. McGreely saw his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprout, he was really, really angry. So he made a deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall, behind the small wire fence, all around his vegetable garden. Ha, he snorted. Those pufftails can't get under it. They can't get over it. No bunny can get in my garden now. Oh, look how deep the water is. Good grief. See the water hose? And see the 3 bunnies? The sun went down and the moon came up and tippy, 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 pat, dive, paddle, splash, 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 dig, scrabble, scratch, 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 spring hurdle, dash, 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 muncha, muncha, muncha. The rabbits are swimming. The next morning when Mr. McGreely saw his chomp blossoms, his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was furious. So he hammered and blocked and sawed and stalked, drilled and filled and trapped and locked, and he built a huge, enormous thing before the deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall, behind the small wire fence, all around his vegetable garden. "I've outsmarted those twitch whiskers for sure," he exclaimed. "They can't get through it, they can't get under it, and they can't get over it. No bunny, no way, no how can get into my vegetable garden now." Good grief. Look what he built. See the bunnies? Are they going to make it? I don't know. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy, tippy, tippy stopped. The three hungry bunnies looked and smelled and touched the huge, enormous thing in front of them. Tippy, 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 pat. The bunnies hopped away. He's got a padlock on it. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his untouched vegetables, he was happy. "I beat the bunnies," he whooped, and did a jiggly wiggly victory dance. And then he climbed over and jumped across, squeezed under, and crawled under until he reached his vegetable garden. "Ah," sighed Mr. McGreely, "at last." Smacking his lips, he picked and pulled lettuce and carrots and peas and tomatoes, and with his basket overflowing, he reached inside for something yummy. Oh my gosh, Muncha, Muncha, Muncha. The bunnies were in his basket. Oh, look at his expression. The end, and look at, they're all eating carrots. That was funny. I love you. Bye-bye.